Hello! 11 drug addicts lie motionless on the ground, victims of a batch of heroin with an unusually high purity level. This was no random accident, but a calculated move by the Lorusso clan, a direct challenge to the orders of Maria Licciardi, the most powerful drug queenpin in Italy. Maria, known as the Godmother of the Kamora, had built a criminal empire based on ruthless strategies, trafficking women and orchestrating brutal murders. She survived countless police raids, hiding in luxurious places with marble floors and hot tubs, and even orchestrated the bombing of a prosecutor's office while in prison. However, the lone defiance of the Lorusso clan triggered a chain of events that led to her downfall. How did a conflict over heroin lead to the collapse of one of the most feared crime bosses in Italy's history? And how did this power struggle turn Naples into a violent war zone? When mentioning the mafia, Kamora might not be the first name that comes to mind. However, this criminal organization based in Naples and Campania has a long and brutal history dating back to the 16th century. Kamora evolved from a gang protecting gamblers from the police into one of Italy's most powerful criminal organizations. Unlike Cosa Nostra, with its strict hierarchical structure and a single boss at the top, Kamora is more fragmented. The independent operations of its clans often lead to internal conflicts, but also make the organization more resilient. When one leader is taken down, another quickly takes their place. Kamora funds itself through illegal activities such as drug trafficking and extortion, maintaining a strong influence in the Naples region. Maria Licciardi, born in 1951, was a part of this ruthless criminal organization in Secondigliano, Naples, right at the heart of the Licciardi clan's territory. Maria grew up in a criminal environment where her father was a notorious local boss and her brothers were deeply involved in Kamora. Maria's family life was far from ordinary. She married Antonio Tagami, another member of Kamora, and her initial role in the mafia world, like many other women, was traditional: a loyal wife, quietly cooking, cleaning, and raising children. However, her life did not stop there. Maria's brother, Gennaro Licciardi, also known as Monkey, became a powerful figure, founding the Secondigliano Alliance, a coalition of clans controlling many illegal activities. In Naples during the 1980s and 1990s, the world of organized crime in Italy was in chaos. The government launched a large-scale crackdown that led to the arrest and death of many male leaders, creating a power vacuum that women, including Maria, began to fill. As Maria's brothers and husband were imprisoned during the government crackdown, she faced a formidable challenge, leading a criminal organization in turmoil. Naples at the time was engulfed in violence and poverty, with unemployment in her neighborhood reaching 70% and the black market becoming the only remaining economy. Maria did not just step into the leadership role, she entered a true life-or-death struggle. She proved her mettle by skillfully organizing meetings with rival clans, convincing them that internal conflicts were undermining their shared business interests. She proposed a plan to divide the city to prevent territorial wars while focusing on expanding illegal activities like smuggling tobacco and drugs. Maria's efforts yielded significant results. Thanks to her confidence and effectiveness in executing her strategy, she gained respect from other gang bosses, and more importantly from the enforcers who carried out the orders. She quickly earned the title of Godmother of the Licciardi clan and the Secondigliano Alliance. Under her leadership, the Kamora became more organized and secretive than ever, expanding its power and influence. Maria Licciardi was not just an ordinary leader, she was a storm in the criminal world. When she took over the Licciardi clan, she faced a Naples full of chaos and violence. Her first strategic move was to unify 20 fragmented Kamora gangs under the Secondigliano Alliance. Imagine the mafia bosses sitting around a table discussing power and territory, while Maria, a woman in a male-dominated world, confidently presented her vision of a more organized and profitable future. She understood that the endless wars between gangs only harmed business, so she created peace, persuading the other bosses to stop the territorial wars and focus on expanding illegal activities. Under Maria's leadership, tobacco smuggling, drug trafficking, and extortion operations surged, bringing in millions of euros and solidifying the power of the Secondigliano Alliance. Her approach was compared to Rosetta Cutolo, another notorious female mafia boss. Rosetta, the sister of Raffaele Cutolo, the leader of the infamous NCO Kamora organization, was known for her sharp strategy and ruthless execution of orders. Raffaele, often called the Professor, founded the NCO, with the vision of building a highly structured and disciplined criminal organization. While he executed grand strategies from prison, Rosetta was the one who made these plans a reality on the ground. Her intelligence and decisiveness made her an indispensable asset to the organization. Rosetta's strategic mind was evident in her ability to manage NCO's vast operations network. She coordinated drug trafficking, extortion, and other criminal activities with precision, ensuring that the organization ran smoothly despite intense scrutiny from law enforcement. Rosetta's ruthlessness in enforcing orders instilled fear and respect within the NCO ranks, securing her position as a power enforcer. She did not hesitate to use violence to maintain order and discipline within the organization. Those who opposed her or disobeyed orders faced severe consequences, often carried out by Rosetta herself. Her brutality was so notorious that it played a key role in maintaining NCO's supreme power. Both Maria and Rosetta were cold and calculating figures, skilled in cultivating loyalty and fear in equal measure. Under Maria's leadership, the Kamora not only survived but thrived, becoming more secretive, sophisticated, and powerful than ever. One of Maria Licciardi's most brutal and controversial decisions was breaking a long-standing Kamora rule against trafficking women. The Kamora tradition had long been to avoid profiting from the trafficking of women, but Maria, as a woman, saw this as an opportunity to increase power and profits. She made a dangerous pact with the Albanian mafia to bring women into Italy. These women were often promised legitimate jobs to escape poverty in their homeland, but upon arrival, they fell into a nightmare. They were purchased for about $2,000 each and forced into prostitution, becoming slaves tightly controlled. To ensure they could not escape or report to the authorities, the Kamora often got them addicted to drugs to keep them under control. These women had to live in fear and endure ruthless surveillance from their overseers. This shift not only expanded Kamora's revenue, but also boosted Maria's reputation, proving that she was just as ruthless as her male counterparts. Maria's trafficking operations were not only extensive, but also brutally efficient. The victims were moved through a network of safe houses, always under surveillance, and any signs of resistance were swiftly punished, often with death. This brutality made Kamora not only powerful, but also infamous for its bloody actions. Under Maria's leadership, Kamora became a formidable force both in power and reputation. Her ability to adapt and innovate within the criminal world made her stand out from many of her rivals. However, her brutality and the scale of her operations could not escape the attention of law enforcement and rival factions, leading to severe violent conflicts and later crackdowns. In the spring of 1999, a major event shook Kamora and sparked a bloody conflict. It all started with a shipment of extremely pure heroin from Turkey, a shipment full of promise, but also fraught with risks. Maria Licciardi, a sharp and strategic leader, immediately recognized the danger. She knew that selling such pure heroin could lead to a wave of overdoses and deaths, which would undoubtedly draw unwanted attention from the public and law enforcement. So she decided to ban the sale of this heroin, a move meant to protect the organization. Despite the sacrifice of short-term profits, Maria was determined to prevent the sale of pure heroin. However, not everyone agreed with this decision. The Lorusso clan, feeling increasingly marginalized and harboring simmering discontent, is decided to defy Maria's orders. Tensions had been brewing for a long time, as the Lorusso clan felt they were not receiving the power and profits they deserved. Their frustration and ambition drove them to challenge Maria, seeking to assert their power and gain greater influence within the criminal system. The Lorusso clan began selling pure heroin on the streets, and as Maria had predicted, the consequences were catastrophic. Within weeks, heroin overdose deaths began to rise sharply. In particular, April 1999 saw as many as 11 addicts die from overdoses. This wasn't just a minor incident, but a full-blown public health crisis. drawing significant attention and causing a wave of public outrage. These deaths triggered a strong police crackdown on the Kamora clans. Authorities already on alert now had the perfect reason to conduct large-scale raids aimed at weakening Kamora's dominance and the power of the criminal families. The media quickly jumped in, highlighting Kamora's role in the heroin crisis and painting a grim picture of Naples' underworld. The actions of the Lorusso clan not only sparked public outrage and increased police activity, but also caused serious rifts within the Secondigliano alliance. The unity that the mafia had carefully built was now pushed to its limit. The heroin scandal became a critical turning point, demonstrating how just one wrong decision or act of defiance could upend the entire power dynamics established within Kamora. The streets of Naples turned into bloody battlegrounds, where gunfire, drugs, and brutal acts became commonplace. Police raids were relentless, with numerous lower and mid-level members of Kamora being arrested and imprisoned. These arrests only fueled more violence as rival clans saw opportunities to seize power and territory from the weakening Lorusso clan. However, the problem didn't stop with the Lorusso clan. The raids and internal conflicts also weakened the entire Kamora. Maria Licciardi, with her sharp strategic vision, found herself caught in this whirlwind of chaos. She did her best to prevent this disastrous scenario, but the defiance from the Lorusso clan put everyone in danger. After the heroin-related incidents, the streets of Naples were filled with anger and fear following the deaths of 11 addicts. In April 1999, the incident involving pure heroin triggered an unprecedented wave of outrage. Families mourned the loss of their loved ones, and the community demanded action. The Italian government and law enforcement agencies did not miss this opportunity. They quickly organized large-scale operations against Kamora, deploying hundreds of police equipped with modern technology and sophisticated intelligence. Raids on Kamora's hideouts, drug labs, and safe houses were not just minor arrests, but coordinated military-style operations aimed at wiping out the entire organization from its roots. This intense crackdown had far-reaching impacts, as the Secondigliano alliance that Maria Licciardi had struggled to unite began to unravel. The unity she had painstakingly built started to disappear, giving way to chaos as leaders were overthrown, and rival factions saw opportunities to assert their power. The once stable and powerful alliance crumbled under the pressure of relentless police attacks and internal disintegration. As order within Kamora vanished, chaos took over. Violence in the Secondigliano area escalated quickly as the power vacuum created by the arrests led to brutal confrontations and the revival of old grudges. Gunfights became commonplace, with bodies piling up on the streets. The local residents, already struggling with poverty and unemployment, were now gripped by indescribable panic as they witnessed these horrific scenes. The situation grew even more dire when the stamp conflict erupted, marking one of the bloodiest chapters in Kamora's history. This conflict was primarily a power struggle between factions loyal to Maria Licciardi and breakaway groups seeking to free themselves from her control. The violence was intense and unrelenting, with over 120 people killed in just a few months. This wasn't just a fight over territory or money, it was a battle for survival and power. The streets of Naples ran red with blood as rival gunmen hunted each other down in an endless war. Kamora's brutality reached its peak with the murder of Jose Verde, a 22-year-old woman, in a calculated and ruthless act designed to extract information. Jose was linked to the criminal world through her ex-boyfriend, Gennaro Natorno, who had been kidnapped by a criminal group. Natorno was a member of a breakaway faction that had split from the main Kamora, leading to increased tensions and violence. Due to Jose's past connection with Natorno, the rival faction believed she might hold valuable information about his whereabouts and activities. The kidnapping was meticulously planned. Jose was taken to a remote location where she was subjected to brutal forms of torture to force her to reveal information. Despite enduring excruciating pain, Jose refused to betray her ex-lover. This led to her being killed in a gruesome manner. 3 shots to the neck, a method chosen to ensure a slow and painful death. Her body was then placed in a car and burned, likely to destroy evidence and send a chilling message to anyone who dared to defy or withhold information from Kamora. The public reacted with horror and outrage to this murder. This brutal act, along with the rising death toll, forced the government to take tougher measures. More police were deployed to Naples, and the crackdown intensified. Driven by public pressure, the authorities ramped up their campaign to dismantle Kamora's infrastructure, arresting anyone suspected of being involved in criminal activities. Despite her sharp strategic mind, Maria Licciardi struggled to maintain control. The spiral of violence, continuous arrests, and internal betrayals became too much for even her to handle. Her once unquestionable power was now in doubt, and her allies grew increasingly unreliable. The stamp conflict marked the beginning of the end for Maria's reign. The pressure from law enforcement, combined with internal strife, laid the groundwork for her eventual downfall. The pressure on Maria Licciardi and Kamora increased from all sides. The public was outraged by the escalating violence and drug-related deaths, and the government was determined to completely dismantle Kamora's operations. In the largest crackdown to date, a massive operation involving 1,500 police officers was launched, resulting in the arrest of 52 criminals in a single night. This show of force aimed to break Kamora's network and eliminate key figures. However, Maria was a master of evasion. She used a network of luxurious hideouts equipped with full surveillance systems, marble floors, and even hot tubs to stay one step ahead of the authorities. Despite being intensely hunted, she successfully avoided capture for a long time. Her ability to vanish without a trace earned her the nickname the Scarlet Pimpernel of Italy. Maria used her vast resources and loyal network to keep herself out of the law's reach. However, the relentless pressure from the police and the increasing number of arrests around her signaled that her days on the run were numbered. Her ability to maintain operations while in hiding was impressive, but eventually, Maria's luck ran out. On June 14, 2001, based on a crucial tip, the police finally captured Maria. She was arrested without resistance in the city of Melito di Napoli, a suburban area of Naples known for its high concentration of Kamora activity. This arrest was the result of months of surveillance and meticulous intelligence gathering. Law enforcement had intensified efforts to dismantle Kamora's leadership structure, and Maria, one of the most elusive figures, had become their top target. The breakthrough came when a source, possibly from within Kamora's ranks or from a rival faction, provided critical information about Maria Licciardi's hideout. On that fateful day, an elite police team swiftly and discreetly executed their plan. They tracked Maria to a modest apartment where she was hiding, relying on her loyal network to avoid detection. Despite her notoriety and the extensive protective measures she had established, the police operation was flawlessly executed. Maria was arrested without any resistance, a stark contrast to the violent confrontations that often accompanied the arrests of Kamora members. This moment marked the end of her reign as the most powerful female boss in Kamora's history. Maria's arrest was not only a significant victory for law enforcement, but also a powerful message to the criminal world that even the most formidable figures cannot escape justice. However, the battle didn't end there, even though she was imprisoned. But Maria's influence did not immediately disappear. She continued to maintain power and respect within Kamora, even while in captivity. Maria ruled in prison much as she had ruled the organization, enforcing a strict code of loyalty and silence among her subordinates. One of the most shocking events during her imprisonment was the bombing of prosecutor Luigi Bobbio's office. Bobbio had relentlessly pursued Kamora, particularly Maria Licciardi. The bombing was not only intended to intimidate and deter him from continuing his investigations, but also served as a threatening message to the authorities. Contrary to expectations, the attack only resulted in Bobbio being placed under strict police protection, and he continued his work with even greater determination. This attack demonstrated that Maria was willing to do anything to protect her empire, even while behind bars. Although Maria's imprisonment didn't completely destroy her network, it significantly weakened it. The arrests and prosecutions of her associates continued to erode the gang's power. By 2009, Maria was released after nearly 8 years in prison, but the landscape had completely changed. Maria's release was not due to any single factor, but rather the result of a combination of legal and strategic reasons. Throughout her trial and imprisonment, her legal team continuously sought to reduce Maria's sentence through various legal maneuvers, including appeals and negotiations. Despite her serious criminal record, they exploited legal loopholes and delayed proceedings, contributing to her early release. Maria's conduct in prison also played a role as she maintained a humble attitude and avoided causing trouble, earning her positive reports from prison authorities. This behavior, along with overcrowding in Italian prisons and judicial reforms aimed at reducing the inmate population, contributed to her release. When Maria returned to the outside world, she found that Kamora had changed significantly during her absence. The organization had adapted to new challenges, and new leaders had emerged to fill the void she had left. The loyalty of her former subordinates, once unquestioned, had waned as they were arrested, allied with other factions, or seized power for themselves. Maria tried to regain her position by relying on her reputation and connections in the underworld, but her influence was never the same as before. The new leaders were wary of her, and the younger generation of Kamora had different priorities and alliances. Maria faced significant resistance in her attempts to reassert her power, but the power dynamics within the organization had changed too much for her to regain her former dominance. Nevertheless, Maria Licciardi did not completely disappear from the criminal scene. She eventually returned to Kamora, but unlike before, things were no longer in her control. Maria no longer had the sharpness and authority she once possessed, while law enforcement quickly began monitoring her every move. A major shock occurred in August 2021 at Fiumicino Airport in Rome. As Maria attempted to flee to Spain, her escape was thwarted. The Carabinieri arrested her before she could react. Faced with serious charges of mafia-type activities, extortion, and receiving stolen money, Maria, who had once been the powerful boss ruling the streets of Naples with an iron fist, now faced the prospect of spending the rest of her life behind bars. The story of Maria Licciardi, once the most powerful female boss in Italy's drug trade, ended in a tragic and unbelievable manner. This is the story of a man who started as a small-time street dealer, but within just a few years, rose to the top of the criminal world. He earned such massive amounts of money that he no longer needed to count it, but had to weigh it instead. Everything seemed limitless, and his organization appeared unbeatable. However, things began to unravel. His life took an unexpected turn after a business dispute that shook the city of Antwerp. No one could have imagined that a simple incident involving a drunk girl accidentally shooting herself in the leg could have such a profound impact on one of Belgium's most powerful criminal organizations. This is the story of Noorden LH. Noorden was born in Nador, Morocco, but grew up in the damn neighborhood of Antwerp. He started his criminal career as a small-time street dealer, selling only small packages. He was arrested multiple times and received sentences of community service or short-term prison. On one occasion, he was sentenced to 40 months in prison, but he decided to flee to the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, Noorden made remarkable strides. From a small-time dealer, he became part of the top criminal organization in the Netherlands led by Samir Bouyakrican, known as Scarface. This organization imported tons of cocaine and had a direct supply line from South America. Under Samir's guidance, Noorden quickly rose through the ranks, assisting Samir by providing his connections in Antwerp. However, in 2014, Samir was sidelined. His brother, known as Karim Taxi, took over the operation and maintained close contact with Noorden. After each successful shipment, Noorden saved money to fund his own shipments. By 2016, he had become one of the most significant figures in Antwerp, having successfully imported over 750 kilograms of cocaine. In addition to the nicknames Big or Fat Noorden van den Dam, due to his physique and neighborhood, Noorden was also known as NWA, which stood for Never Working Again. His goal was always to achieve this, and it seemed like he was on the right track. One of the main reasons for Noorden's success was his alliance with Frank Noorden, and Frank made a perfect duo, importing many massive cocaine shipments. everything went smoothly until a failed shipment led to a serious dispute. At the beginning of 2017, Frank, nicknamed The Tank, a former bodybuilder, received an advance payment from Norden to pay his team. This time, he received about 400,000 euros from Norden. However, the shipment was cancelled, and when Norden requested a refund, Frank claimed that he had to spend part of the money to pay the partners at the port and could not return it. This reason did not satisfy Norden. Frank's staff had incurred significant costs. A port planner in Antwerp could earn between 75,000 and 100,000 euros for sharing the location of a container. A forklift operator could receive 50,000 to 75,000 euros to move the container to a specific location in the port, and even more if he transferred the cargo to a safer container. Altogether, these expenses were a considerable burden for Frank. The conflict between Norden and Frank set the stage for a major crisis that no one could have predicted. The conflict between Norden and Frank escalated to uncontrollable levels. Frank unexpectedly received an unwelcome visitor from Norden, who confronted him with a gun pointed at his head. The message from Norden was clear: return the money. Although Frank refunded 100,000 euros, but it was not the full amount Norden demanded, and this led to Frank's fury. On February 23, 2017, Norden's parents' home was brutally attacked with 18 gunshots as a shocking act of retaliation and a harsh message. 2 suspects were arrested, but no one dared to reveal the mastermind behind the attack. Although they remained silent, but the police were almost able to identify who was behind the assault. Just 3 days later, on February 26th, Norden did not remain silent for long. He ordered 2 henchmen to throw Molotov cocktails and open fire at Frank's house. As expected, the conflict between them could not be resolved peacefully. For safety, Norden retreated to Dubai, over 6,000 kilometers away from Antwerp. However, this move did not mean he stopped seeking revenge. From his distant location, Norden continued to cause trouble and stir up the situation in Antwerp. Norden's satisfaction was short-lived when Frank and his associates were arrested in mid-2017. After the Belgian police began investigating the cocaine smuggling ring at the Antwerp port, Frank made himself an easy target by flaunting his wealth on social media, attracting the police's special attention. However, Norden's satisfaction quickly turned into anger when rumors circulated that Frank had confessed about Norden and his organization during police interrogations. In response, Norden took extreme measures. In February 2018, many houses in Antwerp received a special letter in their mailboxes. The letter, printed in bold with the words, "Death to the Informer," included a list of 9 names, including Frank, his associates, his ex-girlfriend, and even a corrupt policeman who had once been part of Frank's organization. This act caused unprecedented shock in Antwerp's criminal underworld. The flyers frightened the criminal community, especially those named on the list. An anonymous comment read, "Everyone knows who is behind this. I'm not worried, but will stay away from Antwerp. There are enough fanatics who believe this is a real list, while in reality, it's just people who were interrogated." Following the flyer incident, things calmed down temporarily. The police anticipated more retaliatory attacks, but fortunately, no serious incidents occurred. However, in March 2019, the calm was shattered by 4 attacks within less than 2 days. Notably, these attacks began in the same neighborhood where it all started 2 years earlier, the Antwerp Dam area. In one incident, a grenade was used to destroy a car, and the other 3 were arson attacks, including one on Norden's mother's car. These attacks forced the Antwerp police to be vigilant once again, determined to end the violence with a particular focus on capturing Norden. Knowing that Norden was living luxuriously in Dubai and was beyond reach, the police decided to concentrate on dismantling his organization step by step. This was the moment the story turned a completely new page. On April 20th, 2019, a shocking event occurred. Birgit S. accidentally shot herself in the leg. While intoxicated with her boyfriend Mofti R in their apartment, Birgit was playing with a gun when it unexpectedly discharged, and the bullet accidentally hit her leg. Panicking Mufti immediately fled the scene, and Birgit in pain called emergency services. When the police arrived to investigate, they discovered a massive cache of weapons and drugs in the basement: 8 grenades, 6 guns, 1 kilogram of Semtex explosive, nearly 40 kilograms of cocaine, and 25,000 euros in cash. Birgit was promptly arrested for violating gun laws and suspected ties to a criminal organization. The cache of weapons could be linked to the series of attacks plaguing the city. The police continued their investigation and discovered that Mufti was connected to another apartment in Antwerp, where Feud J, a drug trafficker, resided. This apartment was not only a gathering place for criminals, but also contained additional weapons, explosives, and cocaine. The police secretly installed cameras and microphones in the apartment and parking lot to capture footage of cocaine being transported and explosives being prepared for attacks. This footage provided valuable information to the police. A frequent visitor to the apartment was Mehmet Ali T, Norden's right-hand man. After gathering enough evidence, the police decided to arrest Mehmet. Birgit's accidental shooting and the exposure of a significant part of Norden's organization unexpectedly benefited the police. Another key factor in breaking down the criminal organization was Eric P., a loquacious truck driver. Eric was involved in transporting goods from the Antwerp port and delivering them to Norden's associates. During an investigation, the police intercepted Eric's calls, where he boasted about an upcoming large shipment. On January 13, 2020, Eric received a container from Ecuador and transported it to a warehouse in Burnham. There, Zafir T., Mehmet's brother, and other associates from Norden's organization were preparing to transfer the cocaine into 3 trucks. At that moment, the police swooped in and arrested everyone, once again thanks to the criminals' own carelessness. The police then executed another smart move. Zafir was placed in the same cell as Aziz, another person arrested at the warehouse. Their cell was equipped with listening devices, and the police recorded all conversations for 3 weeks. These conversations provided insights into the entire organization and revealed crucial details about Norden. They overheard Mehmet's wife saying that Norden would send 2,000 euros each month to 10 people. Aziz also spoke about the money Norden promised to keep quiet in a large-scale revenge plan. When confronted with the recordings, both men admitted they knew they were being watched and chose to remain silent. They were locked up together, but the truth of their conversations was merely fabricated stories. Nevertheless, the information from these conversations led to 39 police raids in March 2020 in the Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium. Weapons, ammunition, cash, jewelry, gold bars, and thousands of encrypted phones were seized. 51 people were arrested, and Norden's entire criminal organization was wiped out. Although Norden was living safely in Dubai, but he knew this was a major shock and he was in serious trouble. 3 months after his organization was dismantled, Norden could no longer evade the net. On June 16, 2020, he was arrested in Dubai after topping the most wanted list. Ultimately, he was captured in March, when charges against Norden flooded the media. Meanwhile, Norden had messaged an investigative journalist from the Belgian newspaper GVA, denying any involvement in the allegations and emphasizing, "This is a smear on my honor. I am a legitimate businessman. If they provide any concrete evidence, I will immediately come to Belgium to surrender." Antwerp prosecutor Frankie de Keyser was thrilled when the news of Norden's arrest in Dubai was announced. He believed this would send a strong message to the remaining criminals hiding in the luxurious city, thinking they were safe. Frankie declared, "I hope this will be a big enough shock to make many criminals leave Dubai." In the underground world, rumors quickly spread that Norden might leave Dubai for Colombia at any moment, where authorities sometimes still arrest and extradite criminals. It's possible the police had caught wind of this and decided to act before it was too late, but this has yet to be officially confirmed. However, just a week later, news from Belgium quickly dashed the prosecutor's hopes. Before the police could begin the extradition process to bring Norden back to Belgium, he was released after posting bail of 10,000 euros. Their joy instantly turned to utter frustration as Norden remained free, continuing his luxurious life in Dubai despite the Belgian prosecutors' relentless efforts to bring him back to his homeland. With a 12-year prison sentence and an additional 15 years for another case pending, Norden remains a prime suspect in multiple cases, facing the possibility of a long time behind bars. Sweden, once one of the wealthiest and most peaceful countries in Europe, has witnessed a rapid transformation recently. I emphasize the word once because this country is now experiencing an unprecedented wave of violence. In 2022, Sweden recorded 391 shootings, and the situation did not improve in 2023. In September alone of 2023, 11 people were killed in deadly shootings. The Swedish Prime Minister, in desperation, called for military intervention, as there seemed to be no other solution to restore peace to the country. The cause of this violent storm lies in the fierce battles between gangs fighting for drug trafficking territories. However, these are not just ordinary gangs. They recruit teenage boys, some as young as 13, to carry out assassinations and grenade attacks. Among the most feared criminals today is a man who has had a particularly strong influence on the situation in Sweden. He is one of the country's most wanted men, and this is the story of Rawa Majid, also known as the Kurdish Fox. Rawa Majid was born on July 12, 1986 in Iran to an Iraqi family. When the Iran-Iraq conflict intensified, his parents fled, bringing him to the city of Uppsala when he was just a few months old. Uppsala is a small city about 70 kilometers from Stockholm, which became his new home. Although his father gradually disappeared from the family's life, Rawa excelled in school, particularly in business studies during high school. After graduating, he opened stalls in Uppsala, selling food, phone cards, and gold. Not long after, he embarked on his criminal career. In 2010, Rawa was sentenced to 8 years and 6 months in prison for multiple drug-related offenses, including handling cocaine imported from the Netherlands. In February 2015, he was released early on parole and bought an ice cream shop in Uppsala, a smart business move. However, his freedom didn't last long. Just 3 months later, he violated his probation and was arrested again. In 2018, Rawa was released again but was placed under strict supervision and banned from leaving Sweden. Soon after completing his sentence, when his cousin was removed from the game, Rawa realized that he might be the next target. This led to Rawa being allowed to leave Sweden despite being under surveillance and still on probation. He was permitted to travel to Iraq, his parents' homeland, and eventually registered residency in Sulaymaniyah, a city in the Kurdistan region of Iraq where his mother was born. It must be said that after his release, Rawa not only continued, but expanded his drug trafficking activities. By 2020, he had risen to become one of Sweden's top drug traffickers, a fact. The disappearance of the Fox led to speculation that Rawa had important connections in Iraq and that he may have been tipped off about the raid, allowing him to escape just in time. Shortly after this raid, Rawa moved to Turkey and lived quietly for a few months. However, in March 2022, his name resurfaced in the news, this time linked to a violent feud between his Foxtrot gang and the Bandidos gang. The cause of the dispute was 2 large drug shipments seized by Swedish police on February 11th and 14th. The conflict led to severe consequences. Just 2 weeks after the shipments were confiscated, the Bandidos Club was attacked with gunfire, but that was just the beginning. The retaliation between the 2 gangs grew more intense, and on March 4th, a tragic event occurred. An innocent barber was shot dead. The man was driving a white Mercedes near the Bandidos Club when Peter Hassan Hagi, a 17-year-old teenager, shot him. Although the police suspected the victim was innocent, but they believed the original target was a Bandidos member who also drove a similar white Mercedes. Notably, most of the people involved in the crimes linked to this gang violence come from migrant families. A 2022 report showed that 85% of suspects involved in shootings and deadly attacks were either born outside Sweden or had at least one parent who was born abroad. 2 weeks after the shooting, Rawa ordered his subordinates to prepare for new attacks against the Bandidos gang. On March 28th, a young man was seen running into a gym and rushing down the stairs. It was clear he was on an important mission. The young man ran downstairs to the gym area and carried out an attack, causing panic among those present who fled in terror. Soon after, the attacker ran back up the stairs again, even trying to escape through the wrong door before someone directed him to the proper exit. However, while tensions were escalating in Turkey, an unexpected event occurred. In April 2022, Ali Eren, a gardener in Marmaris, Turkey, found a small bag left behind. Upon opening it, Ali discovered bundles of cash. Despite earning only a modest salary each month, Ali didn't take the money and decided to report it to the police. At the police station, the money was counted, amounting to more than $12,000 in various currencies. After reviewing security camera footage near the park, the police identified a man named Miran Othman. They invited Miran to the police station to reclaim the bag, and he agreed right away. However, the police felt something was off about this man. When they checked his ID, they discovered that Miran Othman was none other than Rawa Majid, an internationally wanted man with a red notice from Interpol. Turkish police immediately raided Rawa's villa and found unlicensed weapons, large amounts of cash, and many luxury items. The villa had been rented using a fake passport. During interrogation, Rawa expressed surprise. "I used a high-quality and sophisticated fake passport. I never expected to get caught at the police station." Is this the end of the story for one of Sweden's most wanted criminals? In reality, no. Rawa had bought Turkish citizenship through the Golden Passport program in 2020 for about $400,000. Turkey became a safe haven for criminals thanks to this program. Although Sweden and Interpol requested extradition, but Turkish authorities refused for two reasons: his Turkish citizenship and the fact that Sweden had previously refused to extradite individuals accused of terrorism to Turkey. Therefore, extraditing Rawa had turned into a political game. A few weeks after his arrest, Rawa was released by Turkish police. Ali Eren, the man who found the bag, received a reward for his honesty. However, if he had kept the bag, things might have turned out differently. In April 2022, while Rawa was detained in Turkey, Swedish police shared a detailed report on him and his Foxtrot gang, with the intention of assisting Turkish intelligence in prosecuting him. However, unexpectedly, this document was leaked back into the hands of Rawa and his associates. By the end of 2022, Swedish police arrested a suspect linked to the Bridge Network, another notorious Swedish gang. During the investigation, they discovered a silver iPhone hidden away. Upon examining its contents, they found an extremely confidential report they had sent to Turkey to support the prosecution of Rawa Majid. It was clear that the report had been leaked, and Swedish police immediately flagged this as a serious breach. A Swedish official suspected that a Turkish government official might have leaked the document, although there was no concrete evidence yet. Meanwhile, Rawa Majid and his Foxtrot gang became embroiled in a new conflict by the end of 2022, this time with Mikael Tenesos and his Dalen gang. Mikael Tenesos, also known as the Greek, was a 25-year-old young man. Despite his age, he had quickly risen to become one of the key figures in the Dalen gang, while living in exile to ensure his own safety. Mikael was once a promising hockey player, but gradually he left his sports career behind to pursue a life of gang activity, shocking his former teammates with the shift. Mikael had a lot of potential, he was hardworking, and always handled things himself, one of the captains said. It was truly shocking to see him leave hockey to join a gang. Another teammate added, he was someone to look up to, but his involvement with bad crowds from a young age led him down this path. This shift caused Mikael to abandon hockey entirely and focus on gang operations. The conflict between Foxtrot and Dolan erupted over control of the drug supply in Sundsvall. While the Dolan gang had long controlled the drug supply there, Rawa Majid's Foxtrot gang sought to expand its influence, leading to a fierce turf war. The brutality of this conflict was truly shocking. Within just the first 26 days of 2023, there were 13 bomb attacks, averaging one every 2 days. One of the most notable incidents occurred on January 21, 2023, when a shocking video emerged. It showed a teenager, with a youthful voice, slowly loading a Kalashnikov and firing it at an apartment door. This apartment belonged to the ex-girlfriend of rapper Thrife, who was believed to be connected to the Greek. However, rapper Thrife wasn't present at the apartment at the time, leaving only his ex-girlfriend and her young child inside. Fortunately, no one was injured in the attack, which seemed intended as a threat and was filmed as a gang trophy to assert dominance. In the past, gang spoils often consisted of gold chains or personal items, but the times have changed. The younger generation no longer just steals, they record their actions, showcasing their cruelty to the world. Amidst this backdrop, on September 11, 2023, the conflict took a terrifying new turn. The body of a 13-year-old boy, who had been reported missing, was found in a forest in Haninge, Sweden. The boy was believed to have connections to multiple gangs, including Rawa's Foxtrot gang, becoming the youngest victim in the conflict. Although not rare, but this event marked a grim milestone in the brutal war. Less than 2 months earlier, the bodies of two 14-year-old boys, Laith Al-Azawi and Mohammed Suleiman, were found in Stockholm. Both were suspected of having resold weapons from the Foxtrot gang. When the gang was unable to retrieve the weapons, they decided to make an example out of the boys, turning them into victims of retaliation. Shortly after, on September 12th, just 1 day after the discovery of the 13-year-old boy's body, another murder occurred. A man was found murdered in the stairwell of a building where a relative of Rawa lived, possibly the intended target. This man was believed to be connected to the Foxtrot gang, serving as a money handler for the group. While the Foxtrot and Dalen gangs continued to fight for influence in Sundsvall, the conflict expanded to Umeå, a rapidly growing city in Sweden. In early September 2023, an attack occurred between members of the two gangs. Crime reporter Diamant Salihu described the situation. The brutality is escalating. The people of Umeå are witnessing a level of violence they've never seen before. If you're involved in this conflict, you could become a target at any time. Everyone wondered, where did these weapons come from? According to a report from the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, the Foxtrot gang and other criminal groups in Sweden receive weapons from arms smugglers in the Balkans, including assault rifles, Serbian pistols, and leftover grenades from the Yugoslav era. These weapons are dismantled and transported through drug smuggling routes to Scandinavia, often crossing the Öresund Bridge between Denmark and Malmö, Sweden. About 1/3 of the illegal handguns in Stockholm are Serbian Zastava pistols, and the weapons often come with grenades as a gift. Grenades are priced around 100 kroner, equivalent to about $9 or less than €9. These weapons and grenades have fallen into the hands of young shooters within Rawa's gang, as well as their rivals. Even more concerning is that Rawa's Foxtrot gang is facing internal trouble. Recently, the gang's unity has weakened, leading to internal conflicts, with members turning against each other. Ismail Abdo, once Rawa's right-hand man, betrayed him after a failed drug deal in the summer. This betrayal resulted in gang members becoming targets of violence. Reporter Diamant Salihu emphasized, they were old friends, knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses, which makes this conflict more personal and dangerous than ever. The split within the Foxtrot gang led to a shocking shooting in Istanbul on September 6th. Security camera footage showed two men arriving on a motorcycle. One of them jumped off and started shooting wildly at 5 people standing nearby. These individuals tried to shoot back, and although no one was seriously injured, the event caused a major stir. Shortly after, as an act of revenge, Ismail Abdo's 60-year-old mother was murdered just 1 day after the shooting. Sweden has witnessed many brutal acts, and this incident further highlighted Rawa's ruthlessness and that of his gang, as even the mother of a gang member was not spared. Just 4 days later, another attack took place, this time targeting Rawa's mother-in-law. A stranger repeatedly knocked on her apartment door, but she didn't open it. After a few minutes, the attacker fired shots into the apartment and quickly fled, but had she opened the door, she might not have survived. Only 2 days after this shooting, a man named Mogos Emanuel was killed. Investigations revealed that he was not involved in the conflict and was an unfortunate victim caught at the wrong place and time. The actual target was a member of Rawa's family. The division within the Foxtrot gang is completely reshaping the criminal landscape as new groups form and alliances emerge. Police Chief Mats Baki observed that the Foxtrot gang might have disbanded, and Rawa Majid is no longer as powerful as before, with many of his allies having left, been arrested, or even killed. Swedish police are closely monitoring the situation, hoping to exploit the chaos to infiltrate the gangs and arrest key figures. On September 28, 2023, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson summoned the head of the military to discuss using armed forces to support the police in responding to an unprecedented wave of violence, with shootings and bombings occurring almost daily. The mobilization of the military to combat crime is unprecedented, highlighting the gravity of the situation. Sweden has never seen anything like this, Kristersson stated on national television. No other country in Europe is experiencing this. Sweden has faced gang violence for years, but by September, the situation had spiraled out of control. Within just 12 hours, 3 people were killed in gang-related violence, including an explosion in Uppsala that claimed the life of an innocent woman, marking the peak of the horrifying violence. Swedish media linked the surge in violence to the conflict between Rawa and Abdo, and Sweden seemed unprepared to put an end to it. Kristersson noted, Swedish laws were not designed to deal with gang wars and child soldiers. Gun violence continued to escalate as those involved had little fear of consequences due to the low conviction rates. More than 2/3 of shootings had no suspects arrested, and only 1 in 5 gang-related murders was solved. At that time, Sweden faced an increasingly serious issue with back-to-back shootings, and Rawa Majid's continued freedom beyond the reach of authorities further intensifying the situation. Young boys continued to be drawn into the criminal path, sacrificing their futures. There appeared to be no viable solution to completely address this violence, and the chaos seemed only set to grow. The underworld is something many people want to avoid, yet at the same time, they can't help but be intrigued by it. The story below might also keep you captivated because it is both complex and utterly fascinating. This is the tale of a man who rose to become one of the most powerful players in the Netherlands, undetected by any law enforcement agency. This man opposed violence throughout his life until an unexpected event made him explode. What followed were events few knew about, which later became global news. This is the story of Roger P. Roger P., also known as Piet Costa, is a mysterious figure in the Dutch underworld. He was born and raised in Rotterdam in the 1970s. Despite being a major player in the underworld, information about him remains scarce. The first part of his nickname, Piet, is a slight alteration of his surname, while Costa reflects his habit of frequently traveling to Costa Rica. Regarding Roger's early life, the information shows that he was involved in 2 robberies, one bank robbery and another, both leaving only minor marks on his criminal record in the 2000s. He also dabbled in small-scale speed drug production, but nothing too alarming. So how did Roger become a legendary figure in the underworld, largely unknown to the public? Between 2006 and 2009, Roger was imprisoned, and this time in jail played a significant role in his later career. From 2009 onwards, Roger frequently traveled between Latin American countries, particularly Panama, Costa Rica, and Colombia. while visiting these countries wasn't illegal, but the big question is why he traveled so often and, more importantly, how a small-time criminal suddenly established extensive connections in Latin America after being released from prison. Who did he meet in prison that helped him make these connections? Many questions surround this, and the answers will be revealed in today's video. Roger first set foot in Panama on September 17, 2009. His frequent visits to Panama raised suspicions among the authorities, who informed Dutch officials. This was the point when the story began to get truly interesting. In the early 2000s, the routes for smuggling cocaine into Europe were dominated by the Italian mafia, with goods typically transported from Colombia through ports in Spain or Italy. However, after a major market shift in Colombia in 2008, the Italian smugglers lost their monopoly. This opened up a golden opportunity for Dutch smugglers who controlled the ports in Rotterdam and Antwerp. The volume of goods passing through these ports gradually increased, leading to a decrease in container inspections. Combined with excellent infrastructure and the quick wealth opportunities from smuggling, the door to riches quickly opened. It was here that Samir Scarface Boyakrachan entered the scene. Samir was one of the most notorious smugglers the Netherlands had ever known. He usually worked exclusively with Moroccans, but starting in 2010, a Dutch name joined his ranks: Roger. Do you remember the question we mentioned earlier? Who did Roger meet during his time in prison that suddenly connected him with Latin American drug cartels? It was none other than Mustafa F., a key member of Samir Scarface's group. With his skills and expertise, Roger focused on logistics within Samir's massive smuggling empire. He oversaw transportation and managed teams at major ports in Antwerp and Rotterdam. As the European cocaine market boomed, Samir and Roger made millions of dollars. By 2014, the Dutch underworld was thrown into chaos with the sudden downfall of several powerful kingpins. In August 2014, it was Samir himself who was removed from the game, leaving a power vacuum. Roger quickly stepped in, seizing a portion of Samir's power and influence. However, the price of power was high. Roger received word that he too was on a hit list, forcing him to make the decision to leave the Netherlands and move permanently to San Jose, Costa Rica in 2015. In Costa Rica, Roger began growing pineapples, a perfect choice since pineapples were often used as a cover for smuggling operations. In the following years, Roger and Mustafa F. smuggled thousands of kilograms of cocaine into Europe from Costa Rica, hidden within shipments of pineapples. Their business thrived, and everyone wanted to work with Roger because he always knew how to make them money. Roger was a good man, detesting violence, which is why some in the underworld called him the Swiss. He had no enemies and always stayed clear of conflicts, even though the Netherlands was embroiled in turmoil at the time. Roger remained silent, avoiding any disputes. Even when someone stole from him or wronged him, he didn't seek revenge. He simply made back the money quietly. Roger calculated that revenge would be far more costly than letting things go. Some people even called him Candy because of his sweet nature, but in the end, everything to him was just about money. The police typically targeted the most violent kingpins, so Roger's aversion to violence only made what he did next even more shocking. In May 2016, a major incident occurred. Roger was running a new shipping route from Costa Rica. Typically, when smugglers discover a new route, they send a few test shipments to check it out, but this time was different. Roger's supplier was holding a large volume of goods that needed to be moved immediately. Roger didn't want to miss this opportunity, so despite not having time to send a test shipment, he decided to purchase the entire load. The total shipment amounted to nearly 4,000 kilograms, valued at almost 100 million euros in the Netherlands. This was a massive shipment to be sent via a completely new and untested route. When the shipment arrived at the port of Antwerp, it was scheduled for inspection. Despite all the preparations, Mustafa panicked and contacted Roger and Naima Jillal, the cocaine queen associated with this shipment. However, it was too late. The shipment had been discovered and nearly 4,000 kilograms of cocaine were seized. This incident led to a serious rift between Mustafa and Roger, with suspicions beginning to form on Mustafa's side. Although Roger was severely affected, he remained calm and accepted the loss as part of the business. Their final decision was to cease working together. Mustafa, who had been interviewed alongside Ridwan Taghi, was later arrested in 2017 in Marrakesh when he narrowly escaped an attack by Taghi's men. Roger clearly didn't want to get dragged into that kind of trouble and decided it was time to return to a low profile, running his own crew. The year 2020 would mark a significant turning point for Roger. According to leaked messages from EncroChat, trouble began to escalate when an associate in the group named Ali Reza D was accused of stealing 130 million euros from Roger, the money Roger had stored in Dubai. Just imagine someone taking 130 million euros from you. This enormous sum of money completely rattled Roger, something he could easily brush off before, but not this time. In January 2020, Roger, along with Ibrahim A trustworthy young member of his group, traveled to Dubai to confront Ali Reza and demand the money back. Ibrahim, who worked for Roger as a driver and assistant, was steadily rising through the ranks of the organization. However, their mission was unsuccessful and Ibrahim returned empty-handed. Roger then brought Ali Reza back to the Netherlands. Once there, Ali Reza was invited to a serious conversation. The result was that Ali Reza returned nearly 50 million euros to Roger and promised to repay the rest once he was released. Feeling insulted back home, Ali Reza became determined to seek revenge. By May 2020, Ibrahim was on his way to visit his mother in Rotterdam, unaware that two masked men were hiding in the bushes. As Ibrahim passed by, they suddenly jumped out and opened fire continuously for 15 seconds, according to neighbors who heard the gunshots. This was the tragic end of Ibrahim's life, Roger's trusted associate. This event would become the main driving force behind what was to come and fundamentally change Roger. Reading Roger's messages, it was clear that he wouldn't normally act this way, but now there were a few people he hoped to hurt. He uttered just 4 words in his first court appearance and remained silent for the rest of the trial. He was sentenced to 17 years and 9 months in prison for smuggling, a sentence that was the maximum at that time. Regarding the detention cells, Roger was sentenced to 12 years. He reacted very calmly and accepted the sentence as he had anticipated a long one. His lawyer immediately filed an appeal, although it's notable that Roger was very close to bringing in a shipment of 25,000 kilograms from Colombia, all in one go on his own ship. Unfortunately for Roger, he was caught before he could complete the transaction, making this perhaps one of the most fascinating stories I've ever covered. The way he ascended to the upper echelons of the underworld, how he managed to maintain a low profile for so long, and ultimately, what led him to abandon his vow of non-violence. All of these elements create a truly compelling narrative. The 7th container was particularly special. It wasn't like the others because inside it held an old dentist's chair where people could be tied up for some very interesting discussions. Roger texted Robin with chilling coldness. "Buddy, sooner or later it'll be their turn. No mercy, trust me." After reading all the messages from EncroChat, the police were convinced it was only a matter of time before the first victims were brought into these temporary cells, and they needed to act immediately. On June 22, 2020, a warehouse raid was conducted, and what the police discovered sent shockwaves through the underworld. Images of these cells spread globally, and by Dutch standards, this was completely unprecedented. During further investigations, the police found a large stash of police uniforms and stop signs, items the group intended to use to capture targets and bring them into the cells. They also discovered tools like screwdrivers, garden shears, scissors, pliers, and even a bathtub, things you can imagine they would use in that context. Everyone present at the scene was stunned by what they saw. June 22nd. 2020 was not just the day the warehouse was raided, but also the day Roger's apartment in Rotterdam was stormed. Roger tried to escape but failed not in some luxurious place like Costa Rica or Dubai, but in the very city where he was born and raised. In court, Roger had to sit in a wheelchair due to an injury he sustained while playing football in prison. He appeared with a hoodie pulled over his head and a mask on his face, which is the only reason there's just one blurry photo of him available. Roger didn't want to be photographed or have his portrait drawn. This is the full story of Roger Pietcosta. What do you think of this story? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below for everyone to see. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.